Hi everyone, I'm Catherine from Peace Etc. and I guide people who grew up in mentally and emotionally unstable homes to become safe and secure within themselves. So I talked about what it was like being in a marriage where I was people pleasing and self-sacrificing and really overextending myself in order to be with somebody, in order to attain this feeling of security and safety and to be loved and accepted by somebody. I didn't really go into details about how that affected me in terms of the burnout that I experienced, um, and also about how that burnout impacted my work. So I thought today that I will talk more about that. So, as I said, I was really energetically burned out and emotionally burned out, mentally as well, in this marriage. I try to people please to get safety and security, but then that wouldn't happen, or it would only last a few moments and then it would crumble all over, and then the pattern repeats itself, where I always had to put so much energy into attaining safety and security for that to be taken away, because it wasn't built on a solid ground. So when I was experiencing this, when my marriage was nearing its end, I was always triggered, and so physically I was drained. I was so exhausted, and on top of that, I didn't have any emotional and mental space for myself or energy for myself. And back then, I was working in mental health and addictions. So I was in a field where I was taking care of other people. This work required me to use my energy to make sure that my clients had all the support they needed in order to function and to lead a good life. So because I was caring for everybody but myself, and I had very little space to care. I wasn't as patient as my regular self. I remember being very easily triggered, even at work. Things that I could usually let slide or have patience for, and to be centered, like when there's chaos at work, because it was a chaotic environment with drugs and violence, verbal and physical violence, and yeah. I just couldn't be as centered as I usually was. And in this work, I would counsel my clients and people who weren't even my clients. I would be there for them, to talk to them, to be a listening ear, and, to connect with. But I remember barely having that capacity to connect because I was just so tired. I was emotionally exhausted and mentally exhausted from all the chaos at home, in my marriage, that I only had 5% or 10% to give at work. And then I would give that at work, so then I would have even less for myself. I was so burnt out. And then I was doing this work full time. So I really didn't have much time for me. And then whenever I was at home, I would be focused on making sure that externally we were secure and safe. And so I was pouring my energy into my ex. And anytime I thought I recover a little bit, then a trigger would happen. We would get into conflict. So then I would be at zero again. and even minus in the negatives. Like I really had no energy. I remember being easily pissed off at work. Really pissed off. And I'm not proud of it. But, in a caring field where compassion is a requirement to do a good job, being so focused on attaining external security and safety through people pleasing and overextending and overgiving, um, and pouring into another person just did not go well with each other. It was a potent mix, not in a good way. I'm bringing this up because when you are using your energy to play these different roles, like for me, I was playing the nurturer, the caregiver, in my marriage, you're using your precious energy and time to not be you, basically, to put up a facade in a way. Like, yes, I have traits that do make me a good caregiver and a nurturer, but I don't want to be that full time. And I don't want to identify as that. Like, I'm so much more than those labels and those roles. But when I was so identified with that and really entangled my identity to those roles, then I didn't have energy for anything else. And being like when I had those roles and when I was in this marriage where I wanted to be a good partner, I was so focused on making sure that I was doing those things right that it led me to act in unnatural ways where I used so much energies to make sure I was doing those things right. And then that would impact my work. And that's when I was like, this is not okay. And also, I was crying at work and I was emotionally unstable at work, even though people might not have noticed it. I knew it. And so I wasn't satisfied with the way I was. And I also, it wasn't, I knew I wasn't being in integrity by coming into work, bringing my private life like that, especially when my clients' lives are so important and I'm there to serve my clients. So, yeah, burnout was really, really intense and challenging. Honestly, it was so defeating because I loved my work. I loved the work that I did in mental health and being there for my clients. We all had good relationship with one another, and it was really unfortunate. Like I hated being pissed off at my clients, like being very easy to be triggered at work. And it was a job where communication was so important. It was key, right? To develop rapport and to make everything run smoothly. But even that was difficult because I really had no energy to like form what I was going to say or how I was going to approach people, to communicate. That just took too much energy, which I didn't have because I was so busy trying to secure security and safety at home and I wasn't getting everything was going into that. And so, yeah, this is just an example of how trying to build external security and safety through conditioned ways of being can actually lead to burnout and you not having enough energy to experience your life. I wonder if there's anything else. And that's also when I, like, one of the things where I knew, like, I love work, but I was losing my passion for it. And I was starting to really resent my work. And when I left the relationship, the marriage, I was still working in the same field and I got my passion back. And I really, like, felt connected to the work I was doing and I started loving it again. And so that's when I knew, like, it wasn't the work and my clients that was leading to me finding it uh, finding dissatisfaction in work. It was what I was experiencing in my relationship, my romantic relationship, my marriage, that was influencing even the thing that I actually loved and was passionate about. And that's also one of the reasons I was like, no, this relationship, this marriage is not worth it. Like, I'm starting to lose this sense of passion and care for what I actually love doing and what I feel so deeply called to do and what motivates me really. So, yeah. Um, I thought this was important to share as well. So, yeah, I don't know how to end this video, so this is where I'm going to cut it. Thanks for listening.